Good day, everyone. This is Renaya Gonda, together with Nicole Angela Balladares, Michaela Claire Boholst, Maria Teresa Cabantug, and Cherise Elaine Monteverde of Group 8 from 126 GREGORIO, presenting to you our quantitative research proposal entitled Correlation of the Different Apprehensions and the Productivity Level in the Workplace Encountered by Selected Convenience Store Workers in the Sueña City, Cavite in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. As stated in the background of the study, a worker is an individual who works by manual or industrial labor on a particular material, as stated by Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Generally speaking, employees in the Philippines' usual routine of work rotates within 8 hours and an hour of lunch break according to the Philippines Working Hours, Overtime, and Other Mandatory Labor Rights 2020. Thus, as the coronavirus disease 2019 arises in the Philippines, the usual environment adopted the so-called new normal. The operation of some establishments were affected, as well as their employees. However, some of the in-demand workers, like essential workers, are needed to continue their work despite the risk of COVID-19 exposure, specifically convenience store workers. They also provide services that are essential to meet the basic needs of the people. Considering their nature of work, it brings more risk to them, and they could develop fear which can affect their well-being. This fear could lead now to apprehensions while working during this pandemic and might greatly or not greatly affect their performance, as Cahen 2010 stated that it involves their environment affecting their actions as well. Apprehensions such as physical, emotional, mental, and social might influence your work productivity level and affect their role as convenience store workers. In line with all the concepts, this will now determine the objective of the study, which is the relationship of different apprehensions and productivity level of the selected convenience store workers during COVID-19 pandemic. This study will answer 4 questions. For the first question, this will answer the profiles of the selected convenience store workers. Second, this will identify the relationship of each apprehension on the productivity level of work. After identifying the relationship, question number 3 will now answer which among the 4 apprehensions has the greatest relationship to work productivity level. For question number 4, this will answer if there's a significant relationship between the overall apprehensions and work productivity of the selected convenience store workers.
Next is the theoretical and conceptual framework of the study. First, the theoretical framework that we will be using is called the Role Performance Model of Health. According to Writers 2020, it states that an individual is considered healthy if he or she is able to fulfill his or her societal roles without disruption. And if that person is unable to fulfill his or her role, then that individual is considered ill. In this study, a worker is considered healthy if he or she is able to finish his or her responsibilities and at the same time maintains a healthy body and mind. This means that the different apprehensions, physical, emotional, mental, and social, might either not affect them and finish their task at work, or they might affect them and not able to finish their task at work. On the other hand, the conceptual framework that we will be using is the Independent Variable Dependent Variable Model, or the IVDV model. Here in the diagram, you can see that the independent variables are the different apprehensions and the productivity level, while the selected convenience store workers depend on them. Also, there is a confounding variable, which is the nature of their work. This means that the nature of work may or may not affect the relationship of the productivity level of the selected convenience store workers between the different apprehensions due to COVID-19 pandemic. Lastly, the broken lines that connect the variables means that we, the researchers, are currently on our way in finding the correlation between the variables shown in the diagram. Next, the hypothesis of this research is going to be tested whether it will accept or reject the null hypothesis, which states that there is no significant relationship between the overall apprehensions and work productivity level of the selected convenience store workers.
Next is the significance of the study. This study will be beneficial to the following. First is on future convenience store workers, as it will help them understand how they can improve their preparedness in this kind of pandemic situation. Second is on retail companies such as groceries, drugstores, convenience stores, and more in enhancing the managing skills of their employees, especially in this pandemic situation. Third is on government officials. This study will benefit government officials by giving those essential establishments attention on implementing strict safety guidelines and equipment to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. Fourth is on community. This study will benefit the community in appreciating the importance of this type of essential workers in performing their work regardless of having a new normal situation. And lastly is on future researchers, as it will help them have a reference or guide for the related studies in their future study or research. Next is the scope and limitations. So the primary focus of the study is the correlation of the different apprehensions and the productivity level in the workplace encountered by selected convenience store workers in Dasmariñas City, Cavite in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. The apprehensions that the study will emphasize are the physical, emotional, mental, and social aspects of selected convenience store workers to their workplace. The workers that are only included in the study are those essential workers who are a staff of convenience stores, such as the cashiers, managers, store clerks, sales associates, and the shift leader. This staff of convenience stores is stated by Chin et al. 2019. This study also focuses on the general productivity level of the worker, not on the different types of productivity. This study is limited to Dasmariñas City, Cavite, and other municipalities are not included in the locale as this area will only be the focus of our research. This study will not compare the different apprehension to the productivity level of the worker, as this research tells only about the correlation of the apprehensions to the productivity level of the worker. This survey will be conducted during the academic school year 2020 to 2021.
And now we will now proceed to the research design. The descriptive correlational design will be utilized to know the relationship of the variables present in our study. It will also help us determine whether there will be changes in one variable like the productivity level of the worker as to compare to the other variables like the apprehension of the workers, which depend on the current state of the selected convenience store workers. That is why the respondents' experiences, opinions, and perceptions will play a vital role in identifying if this will lead to their apprehensions, which may or may not affect their productivity level.
And next one is research setting. This setting will occur in Dasmariñas City, Cavite, where there are many convenience stores present in the locale. It is also evident that among the municipalities in Cavite, it has a large population and different establishments will accommodate the people's needs. Our study will be conducted through Google Forms, which will be distributed to the selected convenience store workers. It is also assumed that it will take approximately 3 to 4 weeks of gathering the data. And given our situation today, it will minimize the risk of exposure outside the homes of the researchers.
Now, after gathering all the essential information needed to form a concrete background of what the research is all about, we will now proceed to the research procedure. The research procedure has 3 phases, which are the pre-experimentation phase, experimentation phase, and the post-experimentation phase. For the pre-experimentation phase, before contacting all our respondents, we will first have our research instrument validated by professionals with professions that is related to our study, and together with our research advisor, which is Mr. Ferrano. And as we will use non-proportional quota sampling for us to find out our sample, which will be based on our inclusion criteria, we will first determine the population of the convenience stores in Dasmariñas, Cavite by sending a formal letter of request to the municipal office of Dasmariñas. Now, assuming that we got the list from the municipal office, we will first evaluate the list of barangays, and from there, we will choose the barangays that could possibly meet the target quota we have, which is 100 respondents. Now, with the list of convenience stores to reach out, a pilot testing would be held outside the locale or outside those barangays we've chosen, but still in the place of Cavite for us to be able to determine whether there should be changes in our research instrument based on the results that it will give us. Then, if there will be no changes, the store managers of each convenience store selected will be contacted and informed about our research. And through snowball sampling, the store managers could choose or refer us to which employees fit the inclusion criteria that we set. With that, a consent form will be provided to the referred employees, proving that they are willing to participate in our study and that they trust that their personal information would be kept privately and solely for the purpose of our study. Now, for the experimentation phase, upon the approval of the respondents, we will get their preferred time of answering the survey within the time allotment that we have for the data gathering. And with that, the survey would be given through Google Forms as stated by Ms. Monteverde to their respective contact details. The research instrument used for this is an adapted Likert scale with questions that we formulated on our own and rest assured that would be validated by the time it is given to them, as I stated a while ago. And for the post-experimentation phase, after the data gathering, we will present a token of appreciation to our respondents for participating in our study. And lastly, we will now proceed in analyzing the results through the following statistical treatment, which will be presented in the next slide. Now, the following statistical treatments are chosen as they are deemed appropriate in answering our research statement of the problems. As for frequency and percentage, this would be used for our first question, which is about the profile of the respondents. This is because frequency and percentage determines how frequent or how many percent the respondents shows a specific answer in the profiling part of our survey question. And as per second statement of the problem, which asks the relationship of the different apprehensions to the work productivity of the convenience store workers, we will utilize the mean and standard deviation, which could determine how spread out the data is. This could make a point that the data could only have little differences if their standard deviations are not far from the mean. However, we could also find out whether the data is varied if they are more spread out from the mean. This could also answer our third statement of the problem, which asks which apprehension has the highest relationship to the work productivity of the convenience store workers. Lastly, to determine the correlation between apprehension and the work productivity level, we will use the Pearson-R correlation coefficient to determine the degree as to whether they could be associated with each other. This will also answer our statement of the problem number 4, which assesses whether there could really be a significant relationship between the overall apprehension and the work productivity level. So this is where our presentation ends. Thank you for listening.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Hindi po.
Bye-bye.